Hello, welcome back on the topic of self-worth. So we already saw how things like your bank balance or how you appear, what other people think of you, how many fans you have on your social media, or your grades and your achievements are not necessarily the good basis of your self-worth. Let's also remind ourselves that you need to have a healthy level of self worth and not too high, not too low. And that's one of the reasons why I keep using the word healthy self worth, not the word high and low. Because the moment you have too much self worth, you become toxic. Other people don't really want to be around you, to be fair. If you have too low, you do not want to be among other people. So we don't want either of these. So let's talk about how we can now build a healthy level of self worth. It needs some work doing, there's no denial about that. So step back and think what truly matters to you as a human. When you look at others and you determine whether they are a worthy person, what attributes would you think of? It better not be one of those that we've already said are not good bases of self worth. Because if you start judging or assessing people of their worthiness based on wealth and appearance and all those transient factors that we talked about earlier, that's not going to be a good start. Look at attributes like kindness, compassion, respect for others, how helpful someone is, how they treat others, how well they empathize. These are some examples of attributes that you can look at yourself, look for the answers within yourself. These seem very basic definition of humanity or human qualities. I hope you agree with that statement. So think of yourself now. Look at your moral compass and your values. Values such as being respectful, being forgiving, it's quite important. And I will tell you at a later point as well that I'm still working on that part of myself. I like to think myself as a helpful, friendly person who has principles and would always live by my principles, so I don't compromise on those principles. And I definitely think I'm worth it. You may disagree, but I'm sorry. This is not about you. It's about my self worth. It's about me, how I see myself. So let's start with this. Remember, it is a value that you give yourself, not others. Often, it is our beliefs. Whatever we are led to believe, whatever we think is true, is what leads to unhealthy self worth. Beliefs can be because the way you have been brought up, what you saw as a child, what you experienced as a child, or sometimes even as an adult, what you have experienced. So the environment in which we live plays a huge role in our self-worth and how we value ourselves. Some of us may have people around who constantly put us down. And I'm not going to lie, it is not necessarily the easiest of things to ignore them and stick to your self-worth. But that's what you ought to do. So let us start with the first step. You take control. You determine your self-worth and not the others. Right. Now, be honest with yourself. Get a pen and paper and write all the things that are good about yourself. You can take examples of what I had mentioned, like honesty, being kind, being helpful, being empathetic, or just at this point, if you're really, really low on your self-worth, it may be difficult for you to get started. So what you may want to do is get a trusted friend to get you started with the list. But that's the end of the role that the friend has, because again, self-worth is about how you value yourself. Eventually, it is your thoughts that matter. Or ask yourself things like, am I a kind person? Would I say I'm a very helpful person? When was the last time I helped someone even before they asked, perhaps? Am I a friendly person? Is it easy for people to approach me? Is it easy for them to trust me? Am I a reliable person? Am I an honest person? We all know the answers to these questions. It's not that difficult. Even the most villainous characters would know what the true answer to these questions are. There may be things that you may want to work on. So, like I said before, I'm trying to work on being more forgiving and letting go and just moving on. So, we're not all perfect. So, you have something to start with because you have now written down what good qualities you see in yourself. Now that you have it, step 2 would be to build on your self image. Imagery is extremely important. Think of yourself. You are kind. What kindness looks like. If you have low self-worth, you need to disconnect those connections in your head because you're already believing, like I said, belief is quite important. And if we have those beliefs really strong in our head, that is one of the reasons why our self-worth is low. We value ourselves much low. So those connections currently are very strong in your head. And what you got to do is disconnect them. But you can't just disconnect them. You need to rewire them. So that is one of the reasons why building your self-image by self-talking is quite important and very helpful. And let's face it, it's quite an easy technique because you don't need anything else. You could either stand in front of the mirror and do this or stand in front of your phone camera and do this. Talk yourself up. Tell yourself all the good things about you because you've already made a note of it. And say, I am worth it. The third thing is every time you have an inner voice in your head, and let's face it, we all have that inner voice in our head, don't silence it. Think of what the voice is telling you. Is the voice telling you the truth, and is it something that you need to work on? If it is telling you the truth, like say, for me, if it says, come on, just forgive your friend for what she did and just move on, perhaps it's not a bad idea, is it? So I should probably have a think about that. But if it is saying no one loves you, pause there. When it is giving you those negative thoughts, negative voices, pause. You don't have to believe it. Remember, you're trying to rewire. So now is the time. Pause. Do your self-talking. End it with, you are worth it. I am worth it. The third thing is introspection. Introspection, I found when I ran a session for a bunch of school kids, I noticed that they were really struggling to probe themselves, and it made me quite sad because the first person that you want to know is yourself. And it shouldn't be this difficult to know ourselves because, again, like I said, you don't need any other resources to know yourself. You just need your mind and yourself to do that. Introspection is extremely important to being a happy person, to getting better and being a better person. Unfortunately, our education, the conventional education, does not teach one to learn about oneself. So do not hesitate to probe within yourself. Sometimes it's worth just sitting all by yourself and thinking about what makes me happy, what pushes me off the edge. Ask yourself how you feel. Think about your feeling, and if possible, talk about your feeling. What emotion am I experiencing? When someone is doing that, what emotion am I experiencing? When this happens, what emotion am I experiencing? How do I feel about it? Why do I feel the way I feel? So there will be reasons why you feel a certain way. So learn about yourself, which will then help you deal with those feelings. So for example, if you feel very afraid, which is true to me, I'm very scared of dogs. Why am I so scared of dogs? It's not necessarily because I've been bitten by a dog. But yes, my dad was chased by a few dogs. So that maybe has led me to believe that all dogs will bite. But slowly I'm telling myself that not all dogs bite. So I'm working on that. Unless I know why I feel the way I feel, it is going to be extremely difficult to change the way I think and feel. So introspection is extremely, extremely important. Learn to improve yourself once you understand yourself. Always remember, none of us were born perfect, and we will never ever be perfect, but we're all trying to just get better than what we were yesterday. So improve every day. The fourth thing on my suggested list to improve your self-worth is consider self-care and stop pleasing others. You are not born to please others. First, look after yourself. And this is not being selfish. If you are not in a happy place, there is no way you're going to impart happiness or be helpful to others. You need to help others. You need to serve others because you want to, not necessarily just because you have to. Some people feel that, oh, they have to look after their family because that's how they are proving their worthiness. I have to look after my kids no matter what, even if I'm so poorly, I need to drag myself and do this and that, and there should be no compromise in the standard of looking after my husband and kids. No, that's not your validation. That doesn't determine your worthiness. It is okay to look after yourself. It is okay to invest some time in yourself and take care of yourself, because if you don't do that, you're soon going to burn out, and that's not going to be helpful for anyone around you either. The fifth one I've touched upon earlier is acceptance and forgiving. Do not beat yourself up for things that did not go great or you may not be great at. Remember, we're all learning, so you're not great at it yet. If it is something that you're really keen on, then identify that that's something that you want to work on and work towards getting better. We will have a few more videos about how we could do that, but do not beat yourself up. That's the starting point. You need to be more forgiving of yourself. I have noticed that I tend to be more forgiving of myself if I'm much easily able to forgive others as well. So forgiving, I should probably start with forgiving others, and then I'll be a bit more easy on myself. Accept you as who you are today. Tomorrow you will be a better person. When you feel really low and you feel like your self-worth is nothing, you are not valued, you are not worthy, think of this. We're all in a play. We all have a role to play, however big or small. Let us just play our role to the best of our ability, whether we are a comedian or the hero or the heroine or the extra that adds color, spice to life. It doesn't matter. Let's do the best of whatever it is. If it bothers you that someone else has a bigger role, no. All you have to do is step up, just high up, maybe to the treetop, and look at the world from there. We will all look equally big or equally small. So no one has a bigger role or a better role. It's all in our mind. You have a role, and that's the most important thing. You are here to play your role. Do not care about what other people's roles are. You may not know the purpose of your existence in this universe, but the universe knows it. So you are worth it, and pick yourself up from that point. The next technique is, like I said earlier, having some successes. Unfortunately, success has a complicated relationship with self-worth. I did tell you in the previous video that it is not necessarily your achievement that is going to determine your self-worth, but it sort of is, and I'll tell you what I mean by that. So in itself, it does not determine self-worth. However, it can help you build self-worth. So what I mean here is, sometimes when you think that, oh, I'm just not good at this, I can't even get this, I must be really dumb, I'm not a clever person, and so on. So you put yourself down. I suggest, and I strongly suggest this because I have done this myself and I'm just sharing what worked for me. I would suggest that you pick up a hobby, a creative one possibly, and pursue it. You don't have to be very good at it already. In fact, it is even better if you're not good at it, because I want you to start appreciating the journey. 2-3 years back when I started sewing, my daughter would refuse to wear what I made for her. She just plain refused. She's still not worn it, and obviously she would have outgrown it now. But now she says, Amma, can you stitch this for me? Can you stitch for that for me? And so on. And it does make me happy. And I'm not saying I'm a perfect seamstress, but I have definitely come a long way. And that reinforces the thinking that I had, that I am good at learning. I am a good learner. and I am worth it. So it would make you feel good about yourself when you've had few successes under your belt. And that acts like a catalyst. It just fuels your self-worth building. It'll help you look at yourself in a more positive light. And that's quite important, especially when you have a low self-worth. You need some positivity. Even now, your focus must not be on the results, but it must be on the journey. So it's not your achievement, but it's your learning that you should be focused on. The outcome of the activity should not determine your self-worth. It is a journey that matters. Any result should not determine your self-worth. That's not who you are. That doesn't define you. What defines you is you persevered. You are a person that will persevere. You are not a person that will give up easily. That defines you. That is one way of defining you, rather. So self-worth is about the journey, not necessarily about the destination. Remember that if you have to reach a destination, you need to have a healthy self-worth and then build your self-confidence in what you want to achieve, and you get there. Self-worth is not being the richest or the most popular or the most beautiful, but it is a more deeper understanding that none of those matters and you are greater than all of those things. Knowing that you're of value, you're lovable just the way you are, and that you are important. Remember, you are worth it. I'll see you in another video. Thank you.